Coming up on the Children's Hour, it's the third episode in our 4-part series, Communication Nation. Episode 3, Other Voices, Other Sounds. Today we'll explore communications that aren't spoken with voices. Our bodies are revealing what our minds are thinking all the time. And our first guest is a speech-language pathologist who teaches nonverbal communication skills to kids. Then we'll meet Brad Klein and his deaf parents, Candy and Marty. Even though Brad can hear, his first language was sign language. We'll also look into assistive technology devices which help people communicate. We've got learning guides and activities for this episode at childrenshour.org. The Children's Hour is produced by the Children's Hour Incorporated. We're a New Mexico-based nonprofit organization working with children to make the best in high-quality kids public radio. You can learn a lot more about us at childrenshour.org.
It's time for the Children's Hour, Kids Public Radio.
Do you know why my iPod is shaped like a Coca-Cola bottle?
I don't know why.
Because it only plays pop music.
It's time for the Children's Hour, Kids Public Radio.
Take a walk in someone else's shoes and try to understand another point of view. Look around and you will see many faces and different personalities. Why don't you try to think about if you had something to say but couldn't get the words out? You'd feel sad, frustrated too. So much better with a friend helping you. So take a walk in somebody else's shoes. Take a walk in someone else's shoes. Just take a walk in someone else's shoes. You know we're standing around on common ground. So take the first step, you've got nothing to lose. Try to look at each other like a sister and brother. You'll find what's special inside me and you. Everybody join hands all over the land and take a walk in someone else's shoes. Now just imagine if you opened a book and the letters on the pages didn't really look how you thought that they should go. But you turned around and found a friend to show you how to make sense of it all. 'Cause everybody needs a hand, whether big or small. So take a walk in somebody else's shoes. Come on, let's start walking now. Take a walk in someone else's shoes. Someone else is going. Just take a walk in someone else's shoes. Understand another point of view. You know we're standing around on common ground. So take the first step, you've got nothing to lose. Try to look at each other like a sister and brother. You'll find what's special inside me and you. Everybody's special. Everybody join hands all over the land and take a walk in someone else's shoes. Just take a walk in someone else's shoes. Someone else is going. Yeah, take a walk in someone else's shoes. Understand another point. You know we're standing around on common ground. So take the first step, you've got nothing to lose. You gotta look at each other like sisters and brothers. You'll find what's special inside me and you. Everybody's special. Everybody join hands all over the land and take a walk in someone else's shoes. Everybody join hands all over the land. Just take a walk in someone else's shoes. Everybody join hands all over the land and take a walk in someone else's shoes.
That's the Swing Set Mamas right here on the Children's Hour. This is the Children's Hour. I'm Katie Stone, and I am delighted to be with you today. And all of these kids at the Outpost and on Zoom. Hello, everyone.
Hello. Hi.
And who do we have with us today?
Hi, it's Thorfinn.
Hi, it's Joe. Hi, it's Lee-May.
Hi, it's Nina.
Hi, it's Max.
Hello, it's Amadeus.
Hi, it's Daniel.
Hi, it's Amaya.
Well, thank you all so much for being here at the Outpost Performance Space in Albuquerque, New Mexico, and on Zoom, and all of you out in listener land. On the Children's Hour, this is the third episode in our 4-part radio series called Communication Nation, where we're exploring various forms of communication through languages, media, and community building. We're calling this episode Other Voices, Other Sounds. And when I say sounds, I don't just mean the ones that we hear with our ears. All of us use our bodies to communicate through our facial expressions, gestures, posture, even our breath. That's how we know what our parents are thinking when they just give us the look. Sometimes this is called body language. Others call it nonverbal communication, and we're going to learn more about that from speech-language pathologist Marcy Laurel. There are people who only use gestures and their bodies to communicate, and we're going to meet a family who uses sign language as their primary communication. Brad Klein is a CODA, a child of deaf adults, and his parents, Marty and Candy, are going to join us to teach us about sign language and deaf culture. And you know, it's not unusual to need a little help to communicate. That's where assistive technology can come into play. There are people who have to communicate through technology only, and there are others who just use it to support their ability to speak aloud. Tibony Ho is from the Rio Rancho Public School District in New Mexico, and she visited the Sunspot Solar Studio to explain. We have a lot to learn on the Children's Hour today. You can find more information about Communication Nation and this episode, Other Voices, at childrenshour.org. Let's learn together today on the Children's Hour. This is Brady Reimer.
Try to fix me, love me for who I am. Please don't try to fix me, love me for who I am. Well, I may not talk the way you talk, but I got some things to say. So won't you listen up, come on, let's talk. You're gonna be amazed. Please don't try to fix me, love me for who I am. Please don't try to fix me, love me for who I am. 'Cause I ain't no motor that won't turn over. You tore down to the station. No, I'm alive inside, I'm filled with pride. Got a wild imagination. So please don't try to fix me. Love me for who I am. Please don't try to fix me. Love me for who I am. 'Cause I am who I am. Stone on my own, remarkable and rare. And I may not walk the way you walk, but I got some place to go. So come along with me, and let me show you what I know. So please don't try to fix me, love me for who I am. And please don't try to fix me, love me for who I am. And please don't try to fix me. Don't try to fix me. You gotta celebrate me, motivate me, invigorate me. Love me for who I am. Love me, love me, love me, love me,
You're listening to the Children's Hour. I'm Katie Stone, and today we're talking about communication. It's easy to overlook such an essential part of our lives. We humans communicate with our words, our technology, and even our bodies. This is Communication Nation, a special series from the Children's Hour where we explore various forms of communication through media, languages, and community building. This program is made possible by funding from the National Endowment for the Humanities and the United We Stand Connecting Through Culture initiative, and by the New Mexico Humanities Council. This is Communication Nation Episode 3, Part 1, Nonverbal Communication. We've already learned about how humans rely on speaking to each other to communicate, but did you know that a big part of how we share information uses no words at all? That's called nonverbal communication. Today we're exploring how people use their bodies to express their thoughts and feelings, and how even entire languages are only physical. Marcy Laurel is a speech-language pathologist at the University of New Mexico's Center for Development and Disability. That's somebody who works with people who need support in expressing their own communications. We invited her to the Sunspot Solar Studio here in Albuquerque, New Mexico, to show us how a specialist like Marcy teaches nonverbal communications.
That could be a lot of different things, including how we use our bodies, like how close we stand to someone. Do we turn our body towards someone when we're talking to them? How do we use our hands? Do we make gestures while we're talking, or even when we're not talking? How do we use our face? Facial expressions that show you're mad or you're sad or you're frustrated. Are we loud? Are we soft? Do we sound friendly or angry? All the ways we communicate without using words, which I think is kind of funny in a way because adults often tell children, use your words. But actually the way we communicate is so much more than just our words.
Marcy told us that a lot of the time, the most important way humans communicate is with our body, face, and tone of voice.
People are watching us to see how we're communicating without words, and also if the way we communicate with our bodies matches what we're saying with our words. If we're saying words but our body doesn't match, people feel uncomfortable and they're always going to believe our bodies every time. So right now, if I say, I'm so excited to be talking to you, might seem like I'm excited. But if I say, I'm so excited to be talking to you, you're going to know I'm not excited. You're not going to believe my words. So it's very important that we use our nonverbal communication. Another way it's important is that we have to be able to read other people's nonverbal communication.
If we can't see a person's face or body, it's hard to totally know what they mean when they're talking to us.
We might not feel so comfortable and safe if we can't get that matchup and we don't understand it.
It's also important because sometimes we can get into trouble if we don't understand somebody else's nonverbal communication.
Say you're in the classroom and something's going on and the teacher starts to have a voice that sounds kind of irritated. Maybe they cross their arms or they put their hands on their hips and they show with their face, I'm really getting frustrated. If you can't notice that, you might end up being in trouble when you didn't really mean to be. And the same thing goes for adults when we're talking to the people in our lives. We learn nonverbal communication basically by watching and noticing what people are doing when we're very, very small. And then we copy or we imitate what other people do.
But then sometimes kids don't necessarily pick up the cues of nonverbal communication on their own. What populations might have to learn them in a different way?
So sometimes kids who have what we call neurodivergent ways of thinking and being in the world, that might be kids who have autism or attention deficit hyperactivity disorder, or just challenges maybe with impulsivity that makes it hard for them to pay attention to everything going on around them, might not pick up on all of this when they're real little bitty. And then they don't learn it right away, and people don't maybe realize that they haven't picked that up after all.
Neuro means brain and brain function, and divergent means different from a normal path, maybe. So neurodivergent is maybe a brain that is on a different path?
That's like such a great way to say it. And if you think about it, we're all on our own path, right? So if you expand and expand how you think about that, we're all different in how our brains operate and how we think about things. But sometimes we have these labels that we apply to people when it seems like it might be helpful in knowing how to help them.
Being neurodivergent can change how a person uses or notices nonverbal communication. That can make it hard to make friends.
It's all about sending messages and receiving messages. So if you're trying to send a message, but you're not sending the message you meant to send, or someone's trying to send you a message, but you're not catching it, then it can really affect social interaction.
That's Marcy Laurel from the Center for Development and Disability at the University of New Mexico. You're listening to the Children's Hour. I'm Katie Stone. We have a lot more coming up. This is Communication Nation, Episode 3, Other Voices, Other Sounds.
I was thinking my own thoughts, and you were thinking your own thoughts, and we were talking quite a lot, and no one heard a thing. I was thinking my own way, and nothing you could say would sway, till something funny happened on the way to better things. I'm listening. Life is black and white, just me. I'm listening. There are colors I don't see. I'm listening. Here's a new philosophy. I'm listening. Talking till we get to we. I'm listening. You can help me truly see. I'm listening. So lost out on the darkened sea, I shot out a warning flare. You threw a rope into midair. We both felt so much better there, seeing you and seeing me. I'm listening. Life is black and white, just me. I'm listening. There are colors I don't see. I'm listening. Here's a new philosophy. I'm listening. Talking till we get to we. I'm listening. You can help me truly see. I'm listening. I'm thinking on my own. I like my but then you're alone.
After all the songs you sing, and after all the times you bring, and as we're swinging on the swing, just one thing, I'm listening. Life is black and white, just me. I'm listening. There are colors I don't see. I'm listening. Here's a new philosophy. I'm listening. Talking till we get to me. I'm listening. You can help me truly see. I'm listening.
That's Dr. Noise and Justin Roberts. I'm listening. You are listening to the Children's Hour. I'm Katie Stone, and this is episode 3 of our 4-part radio series, Communication Nation. This series is also available as curriculum for teachers. You can learn a lot more about it at childrenshour.org. Look for Communication Nation. Stick with us.
You're listening to the Children's Hour, Kids Public Radio. We'll be right back.
The Children's Hour is produced by the Children's Hour Incorporated. You can learn more about us and support our work at childrenshour.org. New Mexico Department of Cultural Affairs supports the Children's Hour. Museum Hill in Santa Fe, New Mexico is where arts, culture, and nature converge. Plan your visit at museumhill.net. Electric Playhouse supports the Children's Hour, now open in Las Vegas, Nevada, inside the Forum Shops at Caesar's Palace. Learn more at electricplayhouse.com.
Takkadin nam dadiko takajana kukupataki kupataki taddin katakajana kataddin. Kartakatadin tankatadin tankatadin tankarakatadin tankatajana. Takkadin nam dadiko takajana kukupataki taddin katakajana kataddin. Dana takete deketa katakadina dana takete deketa katakadina taktadim dim takete dim takete taktadim talanka chum karakaratom talanka chum karakaratom talanka chum karakaratom. Takita tajam. Takkadimmi takkita tajam. Takkadimmi takkita tajam. Dimi tattariketa takatakka tattajam. Tari tattariketa takataku tajam darita. Takajam tari takate. Tajam dari tajam takajam dari tajam takkita tajam. Takkadimmi tariku danaku janaku genaku tonku pundari karakaratom. Tergutaka tarikadom tat din takita takajano takita takadimi takita di tankrata tarikata takadi tankrata tarikata takadi tankrata tarikata takadim takata din tarikata tergutaka tarikadom tat din takita takajano takita takadimi takita di tam. Takkadin nam tadiko takajana kupatake taddin katakajana taddin kartakatadin tankatadin tankarakatadin tankatajana takkadin nam tadiko takajana kupatake taddin katakajana taddin dana takita deketa katakadina dana takita deketa katakadina taktadim dim takita taktadim talankachum kartakaratom talankachum
That's Sheila Chandra from Weaving My Ancestors' Voices with Speaking in Tongues 1. You're listening to the Children's Hour. This is Communication Nation, Episode 3. Other Voices, Other Sounds. We're talking with Marcy Laurel. She's a speech language practitioner, and she is explaining to us about the purpose and function of nonverbal communication. That means the communication we do with our bodies without even thinking about it. As we're learning about the importance of nonverbal communication in our lives, for some people, those cues don't come so easily. How do you teach neurodivergent people about nonverbal communication?
It's tricky. If somebody's struggling with their nonverbal communication, either using their bodies and their faces and their voices to communicate, or they're not catching other people's messages, and if they think it would be helpful to them, or maybe if they're younger, their parents and their teachers think so, then we might help them to notice.
They might practice by making big dramatic expressions. Sad, angry, happy, you name it. And then Marcy told us they practice labeling those feelings.
Maybe we give the person clues about what to look for and what it means as part of an interaction. Or maybe we record our voices, or maybe we watch videos and try to ascertain or think about what somebody's trying to communicate with their bodies and their faces and their hands, all of those ways we talked about. So it's kind of like being a detective. We learn to kind of clue by clue, learn to pay attention to what this nonverbal communication is and what it means.
But here's where things get a little complicated. Not everybody wants to communicate in the same ways. Say one person may not like making a lot of eye contact.
If that's not comfortable for you, for whatever reason, maybe you just learn to turn your shoulders toward that person. You don't have to look right at them, but you show them with your body that you're interested. So we have to be careful not to get so stuck that the right way is one way, when the right way is really many ways.
Can you talk a little bit about how nonverbal communication here might be different from other places in general. How is a kid supposed to know how to behave in different circumstances?
So there's differences in nonverbal communication across cultures, whether that's a different country or a different part of this country or different families. There are differences in the rules that apply. And the most important thing about this is that sometimes we're sending messages that we don't mean to send. Like if I'm a person that likes to get real touchy-feely and I want to put my arm around you, or I want to stand real close to you, and that's my way of showing that I'm really interested in communicating with you, but you feel like I'm just getting way too close and you don't even know what I mean by that. Now we have a miscommunication. This goes for how big our gestures are. Do I use my body in a big way, or do I keep my body kind of quiet when I'm talking? This would again go for the use of my voice. Am I kind of loud for you? Or is it an understanding that my voice volume goes up when I get excited? It's a way I am. It's a way my brain is.
Can you tell from the nonverbal communication of the people you're talking to whether they're receiving you and your communication well or not?
It goes back to that detective work. What does somebody's face look like if they're a little uncomfortable? Are they stepping back a little bit with their body? Are they leaning in to show they're with you? Or are they kind of backing all the way away because they're not comfortable with your way of communicating? Sometimes it really takes a lot of paying attention to make sure our messages are going back and forth just the way we want them to.
When it comes to people who are neurodivergent, maybe some of us who are not neurodivergent misunderstand them, and they're not understanding our nonverbal communication, and we're not understanding their nonverbal communication. Why should we be aware that this is the case?
So it's so important for us in every avenue of our lives, whoever we're talking to and being with, right? But especially we already talked about how some people who are neurodivergent might find these types of interactions challenging in different ways or just interact in different ways. So the first thing I would say is it's so important to always think the best of everyone. Don't jump to the conclusion that something is happening that is against you or not right before we even know what's happening. Stay with the interaction, ask questions sometimes to better understand what the person is feeling. Or if the person stands too close, we could give them some clues that maybe we want to step back a little bit, but not to judge. It's so important not to judge because everyone in every circumstance is absolutely doing the best they can. And everyone in every circumstance wants to have a good communication. Everyone does.
That was Marcy Laurel. She's a speech-language pathologist at the University of New Mexico's Center for Development and Disability. She's somebody who helps people of all ages communicate better.
Shows how I'm feeling. I smile when feeling happy. I frown when feeling down. My face shows how I'm feeling. My eyes are open wide when I feel surprised. Your face shows feelings too. I'll look to you because your face shows how you're feeling. When you smile, I know you're happy. When you frown, I know you're down. And when you bite your lower lip, it means you're nervous. And when one eyebrow lifts, you're curious. When your eyebrows join together, you may be furious. Show our feelings. We smile when we are happy. We feeling down. Our faces show our feelings. We look to one another, watch faces to discover our feelings.
That's Lindsay Monroe right here on the Children's Hour. We just learned that nonverbal communication is a big part of how we talk to each other. But did you know that many people across the world communicate only with their hands, face, and body? Maybe you've heard the word deaf before. That's when a person has impaired hearing. A person can be born deaf or become deaf after an injury or illness. Some deaf people can only pick up certain sounds, while others don't hear anything at all. They can't listen to you or me talking or even hear their own voice, so using words can be hard. And that's why many rely on sign language. Brad Klein is a comedian. His parents, Candy and Marty, were born deaf. Together, they speak using sign language.
I tell a lot of my friends who have hearing parents that my life growing up was very similar to theirs. I learned sign language just like all of us learned English. As an infant, you absorb everything and anything around you. There are 270 countries in the world, but over 300 different sign languages. And that's because sign language can also be partly regional. Sometimes a north part of a country will have a slightly different sign language than the southern part of the country.
About 11 million people in America identify as deaf. That's less than 5% of our population. Deaf people are part of a small community, and sometimes people assume that makes life more lonely. Very few hearing people know sign language, but Marty told us that assumption isn't so true.
We deaf people do not feel lonely because we always get together. It's a common bond.
Candy says deaf people have a vibrant social world and a culture all of their own.
This is my mom's voice, and you can hear how different it is because she can't hear her own voice. But she can feel the vibrations. That's how she learned speech therapy, was in the vibrations of how words sounded. There's a Chicago Club for the Deaf, where we're from, where we go bowling together, we socialize, go out to dinner together. Way back in my time, sign language wasn't always allowed in school, but now it's definitely allowed in school, and a lot more families get involved in learning sign language, so deaf people don't feel lonely anymore.
If you're deaf and you can't read lips, how do you communicate with people when you do important stuff like bank meetings? Do you always have to bring an interpreter with you, or can you sometimes get by with just visual communication?
Great question. When my boss asks me for an important meeting, I always say, please bring an interpreter so that there's no miscommunication. If it's one-on-one, I will just ask them to write it down, or I'm pretty good at lip reading.
Martin is holding up his iPhone. How do you use it, Martin, to communicate? Do you actually type the message out?
This is the app that converts speech into text. And I read it at the same time, real time, and it's almost perfect.
I think it's also important for me to bring up what's called the ADA. It's the Americans with Disabilities Act. It's the right of my parents to have equal and opportune communication in public settings, such as doctor's offices, public meetings, news conferences, so that they have the ability to understand and be on equal footing to everybody else. So while my dad does prefer the live transcription, he is entitled to having an interpreter there, which has happened when I had to go to the emergency room as an 8-year-old. The doctors tried to talk to me and said, can you interpret for your parents? And my parents had to be firm and say, under the Americans with Disabilities Act, we have the right to an interpreter for this very important communication about my son's health. So while I do interpret for little things, like if we're out at a restaurant and my mom says, can you just tell him I wanted iced tea? Sure. But if we're talking about buying a mortgage, a bank meeting, a doctor's visit, it's incredibly important for my parents to have clear and concise communication. And the Americans with Disabilities Act allows us to do so.
when we're thinking about communication, all of us sitting in this room and listening on the radio, because by nature of radio listeners, it's usually people who can hear. So what could we who can hear do to make our communities more inclusive for people who cannot hear?
Captioning on everything. Accessibility for some is accessibility for everybody because everybody can benefit when you have it.
It's about the mindset. They have to know that access is very, very important between two or more people.
Most importantly for us, for communication, it's to understand what's going on. Sometimes the communication falls off. People say, we'll tell you later. And that's the challenge for us. We want to be involved. And we can do anything but hear. And so we enjoy having like live captioning, which is what we're using right now, along with the interpreter. We really appreciate so much the technology, and the deaf children nowadays have so much more access than we did in our days.
That was Brad Klein interpreting for his mom, Candy. Brad is a hearing comedian out of Chicago, and his parents, Candace and Martin Klein, otherwise known as Candy and Marty, are deaf.
Hey, have you ever heard of sign language? It's a way many people talk using their hands and body instead of words. Kind of like dancing. We're gonna learn a little bit today. Come on! Talking with my body. Oh, I love moving my body. Talking with my body. Oh, I love moving my body. All right, let's sign some phrases together. Just copy what I do. Hello. Nice to meet you. Now your turn.
Hello. Nice to meet you.
Great job. I am learning to sign. Now you.
I am learning to sign.
There you go. Goodbye. See you later, alligator. You can do it.
Goodbye. See you later, alligator.
Oh, way to go! Talking with my body. Oh, I love moving my body. Talking with my body. Oh, I love moving my body. Okay, now we're gonna play a guessing game. I'll do a sign, and you have to guess what it means by hopping to the left or the right. Let's go! Unicorn or monkey?
Monkey.
Banana or apple?
Banana.
Cowboy or astronaut?
Astronaut.
Robot or dinosaur?
Dinosaur.
Fire or ice?
Fire.
Squirrel or bear?
Bear.
Oh well, let's dance.
Talking with my body. Oh, I love moving my body. Talking with my body. Oh, I love moving my body. Jump. Shake. Spin. Talking with my body. Clap. Moving my body.
Talking with My Body is Danny Go, right here on the Children's Hour. And we're thinking about talking with my body as we spoke with Brad Klein and his parents, Marty and Candy. That family uses sign language and talks with their body all the time. We're all doing it all the time, whether or not we notice. We're speaking with our gestures, our looks, even our stance. So much to learn today about nonverbal unspoken communication, and we have more coming up about how assistive technology is being used to help even more people communicate.
You're listening to the Children's Hour, Kids Public Radio. We'll be right back.
Users at tokenibis.org donate to the Children's Hour every week without spending a dime. You can learn more at tokenibis.org. Thanks to the Outpost Performance Space in Albuquerque, New Mexico for hosting the Children's Hour. Support for the Children's Hour is provided by United Way of North Central New Mexico. Support provided by the City of Albuquerque and the Urban Enhancement Trust Fund. The Children's Hour is supported in part by New Mexico Arts, a division of the Department of Cultural Affairs, and by the National Endowment for the Arts. Keep up with the Children's Hour and subscribe to our monthly newsletter at childrenshour.org.
If I could tell the world just one thing, it would be all okay. Not to our weeks words wasteful and useless in times like these. Won't be made useless. Won't stand there like I don't care. I'll gather myself around my feet to light the darkness out there. My hand is small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own. And they're not yours, they are my own. And I'm never broken. Harmony, like the golden rule. Happiness and laughter helps us create a peaceful world. Today, never after. No more fights, let's all unite. For someone stand up for what's right. 'Cause where there's a child who has no voice, their eyes shall go singing. My hands are small, I know, but they're not yours, they are my own.
That's Aaron Nigel Smith. You're listening to the Children's Hour. This is Communication Nation Episode 3, Other Voices, Other Sounds. We've learned that many people talk without speaking words to each other. Our nonverbal communications send cues about what we're thinking. Sometimes people use physical languages like American Sign Language. But other times, people just need support in order to speak. Tibony Ho is a speech-language pathologist just like our friend Marcy Laurel. But her job looks a little different. She's an assistive technology coordinator at Rio Rancho Public Schools in Rio Rancho, New Mexico, a suburb of Albuquerque. Her job focuses on helping kids use assistive technology to communicate.
Assistive technology in general is any device, program, or equipment that helps somebody with a disability be able to access their environment. And that can look differently depending on the person. Some people use what we call unaided forms of communication, like gestures, facial expressions, head nods. And then we have what we call aided, and that means they need some other device or system in front of them.
Tibony told us that while some may not communicate with spoken languages, everybody has a voice. Alternative Assistive Communication, or AAC, makes sure that people can use it.
People that are using augmentative communication are communicating and using their form of communication in the same ways that we all communicate.
That system could be simple and low-tech, a pencil and paper, a board used to write words, or a book with pictures to point at.
And then we have our high-tech communication systems, which might look like an iPad, again with picture symbols, but when they press it, it might open to more pages and give them access to more vocabulary.
People of all ages and backgrounds rely on high-tech speech assistants. Recently, Congresswoman Jennifer Wexton made history as the first sitting congressperson to give a speech at the United States House of Representatives using speech technology.
Mr. Speaker, last year I was diagnosed with progressive supranuclear palsy, or PSP. PSP makes it very difficult for me to speak, and I use an assistive app so that you and our colleagues can understand me.
Why might somebody need to rely on assistive speech technology? How does it help?
Some people don't develop speech the same way that we do, or they might be difficult to understand. Sometimes we have people with language differences too. In our school district, we have universal communication boards in the classroom that we use with all of our students, including students with disabilities, students that come from other countries that speak different languages that are having a hard time expressing their communication with others. So using it in a more universal way to be able to connect with each other. Even as technology is getting better and better, you think about your phones. If you've ever used Siri and Alexa, right? It could be used and considered a piece of assistive technology to help somebody access something. That's a tool that a lot of us use all the time. And the words people are using with assistive technology are the same words that we use too.
Over time, we've also developed more detailed picture symbols to use in speech assistance.
For example, if I have a picture of a house, and I'm pointing to the picture of the house, that could mean a lot of things, right? That could mean something happened at home that I want to tell you about, or I want to go home.
Today, speech tools encompass far more than simple images. At Rio Rancho Public Schools, Tibony says there are detailed communication boards in classrooms and even on the playground.
We're talking about your pronouns like I, you, he, she. It's verbs and action words, describing words. These are the boards that we have up around our school. And we've found that not only is it supporting students that need that for communication and speech, but also who might come from other languages and have language differences that make it difficult to communicate in the classroom. They're using the boards too to communicate with their teachers and their peers.
Whether we're using body language, sign language, or AAC, having access to nonverbal communication brings us closer. We can share our feelings and ideas more easily, but there might be differences in the way communication happens when two people aren't vocally speaking. A conversation might take longer. It could have a different rhythm, or it could require pauses.
You know, as a communication partner, there are some good things to kind of keep in mind if you're talking to somebody that uses assistive technology. It definitely takes more time to create a message. So being patient when you're talking to somebody who's using assistive technology is a good strategy.
When we're patient, we're kind. And when we're kind, we have the best communication together. We listen without judgment, and we can learn so much from each other. You've been hearing from Tibony Ho. She's the Assistive Technology Coordinator at Rio Rancho Public Schools in New Mexico.
What do you see when you're looking at me? What do you see with your eyes? If all that you see is the outside of me, then I think you might be surprised that inside of me lives a spirit that's free, a spirit that soars through the skies. It's right here before you, it's easy to see when you look into my eyes. There are so many things that I'll never do, so many things I can't say, but in so many ways I'm exactly like you. If you let me, I'll show you the way. Don't see what I can't do, there's so much I can. The outside of me is just one part. Before you can know me, you must understand. Sometimes you must see with your heart. I've climbed every mountain, I've swam every sea, following the birds in the skies. It's all here inside me, beneath what you see. You can feel it if only you'd fly. And tell me, what do you see when you're looking at me? What do you see through your eyes? If all that you see is the outside of me, then I think you might be surprised that inside of me lives a spirit that's free, a spirit that soars through the skies. It's right here before you, it's easy to see when you look into my eyes. Won't you look into my eyes?
Put down the paper, hang up the phone. Please see me as more than a dog that you throw a bone. Let's go for a walk. Yeah, let's go outside. No, I don't wanna hop in the car and go for a ride. I need a genuine encounter of the first degree. I need you to stop what you're doing and look at me. Look at me. Look at me, 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 look at me now. Look at me, 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 look at me now. You're awfully busy, got things to do. Just give me a moment of time with you. I've got all these ideas I want you to see. There's a person who's growing up inside of me. I need your full attention, and I deserve it too. I'm somebody important, I'm a part of you. A part of you. Look at me, 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 look at me now. Look at me, 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 look at me now. Look at me, 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 look at me now. Look at me, 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 look at me now. Please don't be angry. I'm just a kid. I'm only doing the things that you once did.
From an oldie but goodie, a release by Sarah Hickman called Big Kid, right here on the Children's Hour. That was Look at Me. Look Into My Eyes was before that with Anavar Salgado performing. He's a young man with cerebral palsy who uses assistive technology devices for communication. Communication Nation Episode 3, Other Voices, Other Sounds, is part of a larger podcast series of short-form podcasts for teachers to use this series in the classroom. We have learning guides and activities posted at childrenshour.org. Look for Communication Nation. We have time for just one more here on the Children's Hour. We're going to go out with Francis England. This is from Blink of an Eye. Tell me it all, and I hope you will. We'll catch you next time for another edition of the Children's Hour.
Sometimes it hurts, and sometimes you cry. Sometimes it's not so easy to be young, to be small, to be you. And sometimes you just need a friend to sit down beside you, who won't talk, who won't ask, who'll just wait for you. I'll wait for you to tell me it all. Tell me it all, you can tell me it all. Tell me it all, tell me it all. Tell me it all, you can tell me it all. Tell me it all.
The Children's Hour is produced by the Children's Hour Incorporated, a New Mexico nonprofit.
You can find photos, links, learn-along guides, and more about us at childrenshour.org.
Today's show was written and produced by me, Katie Stone, with help from Christina Stella, our senior producer. Chad Shear was our engineer at Outpost. Production help was provided by Eli Henley. Lorraine Archibald and Amber Arnett write our learning guides. We also had help from our summer intern, Daniel.
Find our podcast wherever you listen to podcasts, or go to our patreon.com/The Children's Hour. Or ask your smart speaker to play the Children's Hour podcast.
Our theme music was written by C.K. Barlow.
The Children's Hour is distributed by Native Voice One, the Native American Radio Network.
Thanks for listening to the Children's Hour, Kids Public Radio.